Outlook brings to you excerpts from its latest issue titled Cinema Political. The issue explores politics and cinema and the ever blurring lines between the two. Ahead of 2024 Lok Sabha elections, a slew of propaganda movies have hit the big screen and OTT platforms amid much criticism and uproar, while many more films are slated to release in the coming weeks, stirring even a bigger debate. The latest issue of Outlook looks at the genre of nationalist and propaganda films in the Indian context and also continues with the exploration of the ideology question in the context of upcoming general elections. Both themes are contextual and linked in many ways. Will Hindutva Survive After 2024? By Ajay Gudavarthi, an associate professor at Jawaharlal Nehru University, where he explores how the ideology of Hindutva faces a challenge in staying relevant. He explores why the ideology of Hindutva faces a challenge in staying relevant. Ideology is not about the world out there, but how we desire to view it. It is a way of organizing the chaos of our desires. While most philosophers of the 20th century liken ideology to consciousness, philosophers of the 21st century see it in the workings of the subconscious. Ideologies allow us to represent the world in a way that allows us to relate to it and make it less inhabitable. While there has been some talks of the world entering a post-ideological phase, political philosopher Slavoj Zizek argues, rather counterintuitively, that this end of ideology signifies that ideology has come into its own, as it is now so entrenched that it is invisible. Ideologies are powerful when they no longer work as explicit ideologies but begin to become the collective subconscious or simply the common sense of our times. Further, ideology has conventionally been associated with the political domain. Ideologies are political, belonging to dominant political parties and political mobilizations. Ideologies were associated with governments and the state. Ideologies were imposed top-down and consumed bottom-up. Global thinking on this has changed to recognize that if ideologies are about representing the world and help us relate with a sense of belonging, then it cannot be exclusively political, but also necessarily about culture. Culture here refers to values, ideas, symbolism, ethics, and emotions. Ideologies are collective expressions of individual experiences. Ideologies help us to connect disparate-looking inner environments within us to collective being. Ideologies connect psychological drives to collective imperatives. Ideology in current times, therefore, is essentially about the interface between the political and the cultural. While the essence of culture is understood in terms of solidarity, oneness, and belonging, political is about power and instrumental reasoning. Ideologies of our times manage the conflictual relation between solidarity and instrumentality. While culture contaminates the political attempts to colonize culture. While culture sets the gaze on the political being to modernist and individuated, political rakes up the prejudices within culture that are historically constructed but made to look eternal and natural. While historicity carries the burden of alienation, eternity, Sanatan, of culture carries the burden of hierarchy. The supra-conflict of our times is how do we arrest modernist alienation that is soulless, amoral, and without intensity of emotions, without that fight against alienation becoming a ruse, an illusion to justify and reinforce prejudice, exclusion, and hierarchies? How do we construct ethico-political and politico-cultural ideologies to cohabit together as individuals, as communities, as nations, and also globally, and finally at a planetary level? For this and more, read the latest issue of Outlook.